So the Jobkeeper extension. Now, little trap for young players. I mistakenly saw someone's post the other day in a Facebook group, oh, they've legislated, and I literally took that to mean it had. Went and looked for it, found it, yay, it's legislated. Didn't actually look at it at the time. Didn't realize it wasn't fully legislated. So only part of it has been legislated so far, but that's okay. We will address that in today's session. So I'm going to go through some stuff that we need to know about what has been legislated and what is still to come. So just disclaimer, this information I'm giving you today is generic in nature. So do arrange to speak to me one-on-one or seek individual advice, and you can do that at no cost in most situations because I am a Business Connect advisor. So if you are in New South Wales, you can access that service. So today we're going to talk about a few different things, and I have got a little bit of a bonus for you in that I got some Jobkeeper tips directly from the ATO, from one of the people that's actually processing the payments. Turns out that I worked with somebody that was involved in that. That's quite useful. So he's given me some little tips and things that might come in handy for you. So what we're going to talk about today, I'm just going to introduce myself really briefly as people come into this. Then we're going to talk about these Jobkeeper tips. We're going to talk about the extension parts that have been legislated, some changes to some dates, and particularly the addition of a new referral date, a reference date for employees. So we had 1 March, but we now have 1 March employees, and we now have a thing 1 July employees. Really important that you understand because there are differences between the two. That part has been legislated, so we're going to talk about that. The second part is still to be legislated. That's the new payment tiers and the confirmation of how they're going to calculate eligibility. Okay, so that still hasn't gone through. I do see there's a Parliament sitting date around the 24th of August. So I do anticipate that that will be sorted out then. So if need be, I'll come on and do another live. Hopefully we won't need to. So we're going to talk about that. And then I'm also going to touch on commercial leases for those of you that are interested in that. Left it to the end. If you're not interested in that, you can drop out. But the reason I've tacked that onto the session today is I'm seeing so many people that are getting absolutely screwed over by their landlords. That are not following protocol. They are not following the rules. And I just want to make sure that you're aware of what side of it is so that you can actually ask for what you're entitled to. Okay, so let's get started. So just to introduce my business, we have a mission to empower and educate small business owners to either do it yourself or outsource with confidence. So we provide online bite-sized training that's validated and authenticated, always back to source. So the idea is I want to avoid you getting ripped off or ripping yourself off. And you'll be amazed how easy that is to do when you don't know information. So who am I? My name's Jane Tweedy. I'm the founder of FAQ Business Training. I mentioned before, but I am also one of the Business Connect advisors. So I have been working with Western Sydney Business Centre for 5 years in a part-time capacity doing that role. So basically, if you don't know about the service, I'll explain it in a second, but I've worked with over 1,200 business owners. So I've seen a hell of a lot of people with a hell of a lot of issues in that time. And I take it upon me to try and help resolve as many as possible. Hence, with the confusion of Jobkeeper round 1, got involved in that, kind of became a bit of the Jobkeeper guru, the go-to person, which I think was a little bit unfortunate on my behalf because I ended up getting two-way invested. I ended up with so many calls to the ATO, and I'm not even eligible for Jobkeeper. So it's like, very annoying. But anyway, I did it because I thought if I can, save having 50 people call, then hey, we're doing something that's good. So my background is corporate, but I've been in the small business space as well over the years, doing various things like wedding photography and resume writing, and have worked with small businesses through my corporate roles. I used to be a financial markets dealer, but dealing with smaller businesses, small and medium businesses. Okay, that's enough about me. So the Business Connect program, I will just mention, if you are outside of New South Wales, then look up business.gov.au/assistance and you can find out about those programs. But the Business Connect program is New South Wales government funded. Ignore that Department of Industry, that's an old comment. It is part of Treasury actually. So it's available to all New South Wales residents. You get 4 hours no cost advice. But if your business is COVID affected, you actually get up to 60 hours of training and advice at no cost to you. Aspas Digital Solutions is another program you may not have heard of. It is a program by the federal government, so the Australian government. It is available to all businesses with an ABN, whereas the other program is available to intenders as well, people who have an idea who haven't started yet. So there are 4 pillars for the program, which is website and e-commerce, digital marketing, social media, security and privacy, and software. If you're interested in that program, they have 24 hours of advice and training available, and currently their program is no cost at all. So if you haven't used these services, please do so. As I mentioned, I am a Business Connect advisor in the New South Wales area. So if you wish to take advantage of that service, you certainly can. So the first thing I'm going to do today is Jobkeeper tips from the ATO. First of all, it's about error correction. Some of you might be a bit concerned that you've made mistakes, that something went wrong, you got bad information. Now, the ATO has recognised that it was certainly a party to some of the poor calls that were made early on. And for instance, one of them was about teachers on fixed term contracts. And it told some of these people that they could apply when actually they weren't eligible to apply. The casual thing meant only casual. If you had a casual role and you were a business participant, you could claim. But if you had a fixed term contract, it was treated the same as being a permanent employee. So a lot of people were given misinformation by the ATO themselves. So what they've recognized is because of their mistakes and because of our mistakes, people that made these mistakes along the way, they have said, okay, if it was a genuine, honest mistake, let us know, and yes, we'll stop paying you future payments, but we won't actually ask for the old stuff back. Now, that is very unlike the ATO, so please, take on board this information. So if it's fraudulent, bit hard to say. You're hoping I can get better information than you, Marie. Yeah, we'll see how we go with that. But this part here is quite interesting about what they're doing. So don't wait for your audit. You are putting yourself at risk, okay? And there was another thing that they were asking us to do, which was they said there was this stupid form they created called the Commissioner's Discretion Form. And it basically said if you were under a tax agent lodgement, i.e. you didn't have to do your tax return by the 12th of March, they were saying you had to fill in this form, even though you were abiding by the tax agent thing. So what that meant was that there was a lot of people caught in this that did their tax returns with their tax agent after the 12th of March. And so what it was saying was that they weren't eligible for Jobkeeper unless they filled in this form. They've come to their senses, thank God, and they've taken away the form. So if you don't know what this form is, don't worry about it because it no longer exists. But if you have worried about the form doesn't matter anymore. Okay. So the error correction side of it. If you received an overpayment, if you have incorrectly self-assessed, then they said basically if they decide that you did it honestly or it was their fault, they can decide one of the following. So they can decide that the overpayment does not need to be repaid. As I said, very unlike the ATO, but they can decide that. They can actually decide an overpayment needs to be repaid by you. So they can decide this in the discretion. The guy that I'm speaking to that I used to work with, he is saying that they are erring on the side of letting you off, okay? So you're not having to pay the money back, which I know for some of you is going to be a massive relief because I know for some of you that claimed as business participants, you are freaking out about the thought of having to pay stuff back, okay? So you don't have to, okay? If you made a genuine mistake or you were genuinely misinformed, you're all good. Just contact them, let them know, and stop claiming, obviously, going forward. So an overpayment doesn't need to be repaid, and they're basically acknowledging due to the extraordinary circumstances in the early stages of Jobkeeper, i.e. we had no freaking idea what was going on, they have said, we acknowledge that you claimed thinking you were doing the right thing and it's okay. So the factors that they may consider in not asking you to make a repayment is that you relied in good faith on a statement that they made And I know some of you were very clever and you got it noted in the file when you made the phone call. So you have had that noted. So you are perfectly fine. Or you fully passed on the benefit of JobKeeper payment to the relevant employee. So you got no benefit from it. So therefore, you're not the one that would actually be penalized anyway if they said to pay it back. Well, sorry, you would be penalized, but the employee actually got the money. The mistake was made earlier in JobKeeper when there was less public guidance. So if it was right back early, you were right near the start and you didn't, it didn't work out properly, that's okay. So we consider an honest mistake to be honest if it is reasonable to have made the mistake in your circumstance. So for a lot of you, that situation is going to apply. If you were fraudulent, very, very different story. If you were fraudulent, you will get in trouble. You will be asked to pay money back and you can have further penalties gone against you, okay? So they're trying hard to maintain the integrity of the JobKeeper stimulus package, and they will continue to pursue claims. So businesses who have made a claim for employees without a nomination notice or have not paid the employees, and I've heard some examples of that in one of the tradie groups where they basically said that they got this odd notification and it was very clear that the employer had claimed that this person was getting the money when they weren't. If anything like that's gone on, then that is obviously fraudulent. The employer's obviously done it deliberately. Nah, you ain't going to get away with that shit. Okay, so bear in mind, auditing has started. They have already been auditing accounts and they will continue to audit accounts. So please do not do something dodgy. Things like amending your activity statements, your BAS statements to increase your sales so that you were eligible. There's things like that. If you've done stuff like that, be prepared to have them come down at you in a ton of bricks. So if you've done the right thing, if you made an honest mistake, you're all good to go. But if you didn't, yeah, not so good. Okay. So the legislated part of the JobKeeper extension. Okay. So this is the first thing that's happened. The original JobKeeper, these were the dates that applied. And basically August was a bit of a funny month and it has 3 fortnights that end in August, okay? So the 2nd of August, 16th, and the 30th of August. So if you have employees, unfortunately, you're paying 3 lots of pay to them before getting the money back from the ATO. So that was happening, that was fine. However, what has happened is that the government has realized, probably because of Melbourne's minor issue with lockdown, that there is a big issue for August. So what it has done is it's changed some things. So although these dates still apply, these fortnights still apply, there's eligibility changes from the fortnight that commenced on the 3rd of August. Okay, so that's already in the past. That's already happened. So what they've done is said, okay, we're changing things, we're mixing things up, and we're going to let you off like we did before. So in other words, what it means is that in certain circumstances, you will be able to add new employees or long-term casuals that have now reached a certain status. You will be able to add them to your JobKeeper claims from the fortnight that commenced on the 3rd of August and ends on the 16th of August. So on the fortnight ending 16th of August and ending 30th of August, you will be able to claim an additional JobKeeper payment for certain people. And I will explain to you in a second who they are. What is happening for August and September? So up until and including the fortnight that ended on the 2nd of August, no change at all. You'll get exactly what you had before, all good, no problem, no hassle. However, if there's circumstances where you have new employees eligible or previous employees become eligible, then you can add them from the 3rd of August. Now, like we had before, there is a period which you can pay them in August and still get this money paid for the fortnights ending the 16th of August and the 30th of August, okay? So you will be able to pay them by the end of the month, okay? So don't stress that you've already missed the fortnight of the 16th of August. Doesn't matter, you will get that fixed. What's happened is the eligibility date for employees was previously the 1st of March. The 1st of March still applies. So if you are currently a business participant, a sole trader, you're the only person in your business, you won't be affected. 1st of March, still in there, still good, fine, good, sweet as. However, if you have employees, you may have some people that have now become eligible. So, first one, they were not considered eligible on the 1st of March because they did not meet the definition of a long-term casual by the 1st of March, but by the 1st of July, they now meet that requirement. So what does that mean? The long-term casual requirements said that they had to be a systematic and regular casual employee with your business for a 12-month period. Now, the 12-month period end date has just now moved to 1 July. So for some of you, I know Kylie asked a question about this. What happened to her employee that started in October 2019? Unfortunately, if they are a casual, no, they still won't be covered because October 2019 to 1st of July 2020 won't get them 12 months, okay? So they have to now have 12 months. But if you had an employee that just missed out by a week or two, they are now eligible. They're an eligible employee as of the 1st of July date. Now, you can't go and pay them for July under Jobkeeper. You can't go and pay them for that fortnight ending the 2nd of August. But from the 3rd of August on, yes, you can. And not only can, you have to. So it's again, one in, all in. Okay, it's just like it was before. We have one in, all in for the March employees, and now it's one in, all in for anyone that applies to March, but also anyone that applies to July. Okay, so we're adding in this period. And if you've got any questions, guys, as I'm going through this, please feel free to ask. There is about a 20-second delay on what I'm telling you versus what you're seeing. So it may be that I have to backtrack a little bit, but that's cool. If you've got any questions, ask. And if it's confusing, ask. The second circumstance was where they were not 16 as at 1st of March, but they've had their birthday by 1st of July. They then become possibly an eligible employee. However, that 16, 17-year-old thing changed, remember? So they can only be eligible to get Jobkeeper if they are living independently and they're not undertaking full-time study, okay? But that may apply to some of your staff potentially. The other one that may have changed, a circumstance that may have changed for somebody, may have been that they weren't a resident or they weren't a special category visa holder as at 1 March or whatever, and they are now. They are now eligible for Jobkeeper. Okay, so that is the new employee thing. And this comes from the explanatory statement. That is an extract directly from the explanatory statement. Okay, so I've copied this bit of text rather than drag it out, but I'll kind of go through it. So the former nomination notice requirements effectively prevented eligible individuals from nominating Jobkeeper scheme for more than one entity. So what it basically said before was it said, if you've claimed for entity A, and then for whatever reason you no longer work for entity A, but you also had entity B, you couldn't then claim from entity B. It was one or the other. You couldn't chop and change, even if both were eligible. Tough luck. If you went with A and for some reason A didn't continue, you couldn't claim B, okay? That was how it worked. And that in itself hasn't changed. However, they have recognized certain issues. So they will provide support where individuals have been employed by an entity by 1st of July and they've amended the restriction. So what you have to do, the employee has to do, has to renominate. So the individual must have ceased their employment or their business participation in the first entity before 1st of July and then started with their new employment by the 1st of July. So for instance, say you had a business and you were a sole trader and you had that business going until the 15th of June, but you went, had enough, all too hard, COVID's kicked my ass, I'm leaving that business. So you're no longer a business participant, you're no longer eligible for Jobkeeper, and you took up employment with somebody else. So on the 20th of June, you became an employee, a part-time employee, permanent part-time, or a permanent full-time employee with an employer. You are now eligible for Jobkeeper with that new employer, even though you'd claimed Jobkeeper before from yourself as a business participant, or if that wasn't the case, you were an employee somewhere and you'd claimed under that, you can now claim under the new one if that old one doesn't exist anymore, okay? This does not apply if your business participant status is still continuing. If your business is still running, you cannot change. If your job that you were originally claiming for is still going, is still active, you're still employed, then you can't change. But if you ceased that stuff before 1st of July and started something new before 1st of July, you can make the change. So that is a particular thing they've changed this time round. Sorry, didn't mean to confuse you. You can read that later if you wish to. The bit that I did want to read was this example of Rosie. So in this situation, dear Rosie, she was with a company, HYLT Pty Limited. And what happened was she left the employment of them during Jobkeeper. So in April or whatever, she got 3 Jobkeeper payments for the April payments, and then she left. Okay. She left to take up another opportunity. The new opportunity, because of the dates and things, she wouldn't have had any eligibility with them back from the 1st of March start date. That's okay. But for some reason, she's decided, no, that new opportunity wasn't so good, didn't like it, and she comes back to your firm. And she doesn't even have to have come back by 1 July because she is what's called a preserved 1 March 2020 employee. So what that means is she can come back to the business. You can rehire her. And then for the fortnights that you have rehired her after the 2nd of August, she can receive money. So when I say after the 2nd of August, that's only the dates you can claim. You could have rehired her earlier than that, but she is allowed to become part of Jobkeeper again, which is kind of an interesting one. So that may apply if somebody, as long as she didn't claim for another eligible entity. So this is a funny one. Again, it might apply to some of you that have employees that you let go and then bought back because you thought you can't afford them or whatever, because we know that the only way you could stop paying Jobkeeper for an employee was for them to actually leave the business. Okay. And some obviously left thinking the grass was greener, and then they'd come crawling back and go, grass wasn't greener, please let me back. So that's it. If you had employees as at the 1 March date, you may also have newly eligible employees at the 1 July date. You cannot exclude anybody. Okay. So everyone is considered eligible. So for those of you with employees, I strongly suggest you sit down and look at all your dates and really work out. And I know for some of you, I know Steve, you're on here. You're one of these people that are probably in a messy situation where you guys have got 45 staff or whatever at one stage you had. There's definitely chances that people have come and gone and all these sort of things. So you definitely need to look at all this and work out, have you hired any new part-time or full-time employees before the 1st of July? Because if you have, they're now under Jobkeeper. Okay, so it's really important that if you have employees that you look at this. This is a really, really important thing to do. Okay, so it's very messy, it's confusing, it's complicated. The slides, by the way, I will make available, plus all the documents that this comes from, the legislation and the explanatory note and all that stuff, I will make available to you as long as you sign up to my mailing list, and you, I will give you how to do that very shortly. Okay, so it's still a one and all in, and it applies to the March and the July employees. Okay, so you can't exclude anyone. You can't by choice exclude anyone. Really important. ATO have put out, and they put out this cute little infographic, very flash for the ATO. So employees that meet the new eligibility requirements can now be nominated by a new employer if their original employment with the Jobkeeper employer ended before 1 July. So if it ended after 1 July, they can't do it. But if it was before 1 July, they can do it. As of the 3rd of August, the key date for assessing employee eligibility is now 1 July. But the 1 March people are still preserved. Okay, so it's very confusing wording, but it kind of all makes sense when you look at it. For the fortnights commencing on the 3rd and the 17th of August, you have until the 31st of August to meet the wage condition. Okay. So remember I said before, so if you've got employees that now need to be paid for the 2 weeks of the 3rd and the 17th of August, starting on the 3rd and the 17th, so ending on the 16th and the 30th, just to confuse matters, then you will need to make sure you've paid them by the 31st of August. So that when you put your details in September for August, you will be able to get that money back. Okay, so really important that you know what you're doing by then. So like I said, if you have got employees, please check with your accountants. Hopefully, Marie, you guys have got at least this piece of information. Check with your accountants, check with someone like myself, and just go through your scenarios. And the explanatory memorandum is actually quite useful. That Rosie example came from the explanatory memorandum. So what I like about the explanatory things like that is it gives you a specific example and says, hey, if this applies, then this happens. And I find those are a lot easier to understand often than the actual legislation part or the in the explanatory note. It's easier to read the examples. Okay, so look at the examples and see what applies to you guys. Okay, so that's the changes to August and September. So eligible employees from the 1st of July is the long-term casuals that now have 12 months of service by the 1st of July. They were not 16, but they are now by 1st of July, or they're now residents or subclass. Okay, so that's the old employees. Employees who met 1st of March, no need to retest eligibility. They are still eligible. They're still there, all good. Even like in the Rosie situation where Rosie left and came back, Rosie's still captured by the fact she was a 1st of March employee. So reinstated employees are eligible, but can't have been eligible elsewhere. Okay, so they can't claim, and you still can't double dip. Is basically what we're trying to say here. There was a no replacing employer restriction. You couldn't change employer during Jobkeeper. There is that explanation now that you can in the circumstance where you have left somebody before 1 July and restarted after, or you've gone back to a prior employer. Okay, the next part of Jobkeeper. This part has not yet been legislated. Damn it. So the government announced changes on the 21 July to extend the period over which Jobkeeper payments are made and to introduce 2 tiers of payments. That has not been done yet. These changes will be announced in separate amendments. As I said, I'm looking at the schedule for Parliament. Looks like 24th of August will be the date. Okay, so we have to unfortunately wait to then, which is a little bit annoying because we don't know for sure what's going to happen, for October and that. But until the 27th of September, we're still good to go. So what they've told us they're going to do is they're going to drop it down from $1,500 flat rate for everybody down to $1,200 a fortnight for the first quarter. Certain employees that did over 20 hours a week on average for the 4 weeks prior to the date. Okay, so what that effectively means that if in February they worked for 20 hours, over 20 hours a week, they will be entitled to $1,200. And that includes yourselves as a business participant. Okay. If you did under 20 hours as a business participant, if your employees did under 20 hours on average for those 4 weeks up to 1 March, then they will only be entitled to $750. Again, this is not yet legislated, but I can't see any reason why they would really change this. So that's going to be for that first period. For the second period, they're going to do the same thing. And if the employees are affected by the 1 July thing, they're newly eligible for 1 July, then it's going to be the 4 weeks up to 1 July. So basically June, but not quite June. Okay, so that's what you're testing. Now, there is some exceptions which are noted that if, for instance, people were on holiday or something like that, then obviously they're going to be reasonable about that. And they're going to go, okay, yeah, they didn't work as many hours because they were on leave. That's okay. Leave is an acceptable thing. Marie's asked a question. For an employer who is paying a casual who normally earns less than $1,500 per fortnight, when does she drop it to $750 per fortnight? Concerned employer may end up overpaying the employee. Okay, so this is not yet happening, okay? This is effective 28th September. We're still well in the future, okay? So if this gets legislated next week, then we're all good. We've got plenty of time to sort it out by the end of September. So, Marie, no need to stress. We only are worried about the extra payments that we're making to these employees that started 1 July, okay? So those employees that started 1 July, we're still paying them $1,500 because still the existing time frame still applies. The 27th of September still exists, and we're still paying them $1,500 a fortnight. Okay, still paying them. When the new legislation comes in, then we will know what happens from the fortnight commencing the 28th of September. At this point in time, we don't know anything about that. Okay, so hopefully that answers that, Marie. So the second period is the 4th of January to the 28th of March, and it will drop down further. So it'll drop down to $1,000 for the ones that did the 20 hours on average, and $650 to the ones that did less than the 20 hours. Now, remember, this is still yet to be confirmed. The other thing that's obviously yet to be confirmed is the turnover calculations. They have told us it's going to be like before, but again, until we see this in writing, don't rely on it, okay? So we've got to wait until it actually comes through. So September quarter 2020 is going to compare to December quarter 2019 to be eligible for that October to December period. To be eligible for that January to March period, we need to be down that 30% for the December quarter 2020 versus December quarter 2019. Now, obviously, if your business wasn't in existence in 2019, we've got the same issues and rigmarole we have currently. So there will be other alternative tests, but again, we've kind of got to wait and see what they come up with. At this stage, their thresholds are all the same. They've said it's still 30% hit for small and medium enterprises. Big businesses is 50%. Don't think Qantas will have any problem hitting 50%. I think they're in a world of hurt at the moment. It's really sad what's going on in the travel industry. I love travel. Who misses travel? Oh my God. There was a beautiful sunset the other day, and all I could think of is, God, I wish I was sitting on a beach in Rarotonga looking at the sunset. It was very sad. And I was like, oh, it's a long time before that's going to happen. 30% hit for small and medium enterprises, 50% hit for your big businesses, and 15% hit for charities. Okay, so that all sounds to be the same, but like I said, to be confirmed, not yet legislated. Okay, so once it's legislated, I will confirm exactly what happens. If it's straightforward, I'll just put it out. If it's not straightforward, I'll do another live to explain it. Okay, so again, there's some ATO stuff. There was a new page they put up today. One problem I find with the ATO is they keep changing the pages, and then they just delete the old one. I'm like, why can't you just not do that? It's really annoying. If you want to copy the slides and the documents I've mentioned today, please let me know. So what you can do, if you go to my website, faqbusinesstraining.com.au, and you go to, you'll find in the navigation, Save Money, How to Reduce Business Expenses. If you go to that, I will send you the little guide on how to reduce your business expenses, because if you're needing money coming in from Jobkeeper, you probably also should be looking at stopping money going out when you can. So that's like 74 different ways. It's about a 30-page little book. I know Alice has got a copy of it. It's a 30-page little booklet, just an ebook thing, and it's got about 74 different ways that you can reduce your expenses. So I strongly suggest it would be a helpful, useful thing for you. So if you want to grab that as well as the documents I've talked about today, go there and grab that. Now, otherwise, you can just send me an email to training@faqbusiness.com.au, and I will send you the slides and stuff and the docs from today. Now, so thanks for you that if you are interested in Jobkeeper, that was all you needed. Catch you later. Hopefully there was something of interest to you, something that was useful for you. I know it applies more to the employers that have employees, because most of you as a business participant shouldn't be affected unless, of course, you ended your business before 1 July, in which case you may actually have become an eligible employee now for somebody else. So do look into that if that situation applies to you. For the rest of you that are interested, that have commercial leases, and I know there's a few people on here that do, commercial leases, we're going to actually just look at the documents. So what I'm going to talk about is you're still entitled to deferrals and waivers. It is proportionate to the loss of income, okay? So for instance, if you have lost 60% of income, you only have to pay the remaining 40% of your rent. That's all you have to pay right now. The balance of the 60%, half of it has to be waived and half of it has to be deferred for a 2-year period minimum. For over a 2-year period. So you're going to pay it back over the 2-year period. Now, a lot of people are not doing this right, and that's why I thought I'm going to talk about it now. So I'm going to go and cross over to the documents. but hopefully that will help you. So as I mentioned, if you sign up for that little booklet, I will send you that little booklet as well as the docs and stuff from today and the slides. But if you do want just to get the slides and that from today, just send me an email, training@faqbusiness.com.au, and I will send that out to you.